So for this second session on George Washington's farewell address, I know there's a lot of it left. We're not going to focus on all of it. We're going to focus on some of the most important parts. Okay? So if you go to page 100, and we're going to start in the last paragraph where it says, towards the preservation of your government. Okay? Do you see that? So towards the preservation of your government and the permanency of your present happy state. So preservation of your government means for the government to succeed, to be protected. And the permanence of your happy state means for you to continue being happy. So for your protection and for your happiness. It is requisite, require. Yeah. It is requisite not only that you steadily discountenance irregular oppositions to its acknowledged authority, but also that you resist with care the spirit of innovation upon its principles, however spacious the pretext. Now, so you should resist people that attack your government. So you should defend your government, not listen to people that attack it. And you should resist innovation. Innovation means new ideas. So you should resist changing the constitution. Do not bring in new ideas into the constitution. One method of assault may be to effect, in the forms of the constitution, alterations which will impair the energy of the system. So it's one way to attack the government would be to change the constitution so that it maybe become biased for one side or another. And thus undermine what cannot be directly overthrown. So if you undermine something, you limit the power. So even though you could not overthrow the government, you might limit the power of the government by changing the constitution. In all the changes to which you may be invited, remember that time and habit are at least as necessary to fix the true character of governments as of other human institutions. So you might have lots of opportunities, lots of different people, lots of different ideas, but remember time and habit. People with experience, people that have shown good behavior or consistent behavior, habits that are good over a long period of time. The experience is the surest standard by which to test the real tendency of the existing constitution of a country. So the experience means what happens to people. If what is happening to people is good, then you know the constitution is good. You don't need to change it. So don't be fooled by people who make arguments. The facility in changes upon the credit of mere hypotheses and opinion exposes to perpetual change from the endless variety of hypotheses and opinion. So if it's just somebody's idea, then there is an endless number of different ideas. It's not a good way to change the government. And you'll have perpetual change. Perpetual means never ending. So never ending change if you just follow people's ideas. And remember especially that for the efficient management of your common interests in a country so extensive as ours, so big as ours, a government of as much vigour as is consistent with the perfect security of liberty is indispensable. You need a government that's got a lot of energy. Because the country is so big, you need a government that is very energetic, that really protects liberty. Liberty itself will find in such a government, with powers properly distributed and adjusted, its surest guardian. Powers, this is a key sentence, powers properly distributed. So distributed means between the state and the federal, and between the executive, the legislature, and the judicial. So it's saying freedom depends on the separation of power. Don't let anyone become too powerful, basically. It is indeed little else than a name where the government is too feeble to withstand the enterprises of faction, to confine each member of the society within limits prescribed by laws, and to maintain all in the secure and tranquil enjoyment of the rights of person and prosperity. Now he's bringing in the idea of factions. F-A-C-T-I-O-N. Faction means one group, one part. I have already intimated to you the danger of parties in the state, with particular reference to the founding of them on geographical discriminations. That's what we looked at the end of yesterday. You're saying the north needs the south, the east needs the west. Don't make sections. Remember that word, sectionalism? A sectionalism is where you identify yourself as part of a section of the country, not as the nation. So people that say they are Karen, not Burmese, that is sectionalism. You're not patriotic about your country, you are enthusiastic about your area. And that's what happened in America with the North and the South. The Southerners didn't say that they were Americans, they said that they were Southerners. The Northerners said they were Northerners because they had different culture, different attitude, especially with slavery. So I've already intimated, I've already suggested to you the danger of parties in the state, especially geographical parties. Let me now take a more comprehensive view and warn you in the most solemn manner, solemn is the most serious manner, against the baneful effects of the spirit of party generally. Baneful means negative. So let me warn you against the negative effects of having parties. Yes? So he already talked about unity, the need for each other. Now he's going to warn about the danger of not having unity, of having separate political parties. The spirit, unfortunately, is inseparable from our nature, having its root in the strongest passions of the human mind. Because we are human, we naturally make different parties. And I think you can see that everywhere, yes? Every country, every area, every people, they don't often stay united for a long time. They separate into different parties or into different groups. It exists under different shapes in all governments. So if you have governments, maybe not a communist government because you only have one party, but democratic governments is what he means, where people are electing, where they're voting, you're naturally going to have different parties because people can vote for people from different parties. More or less stifled, controlled, or repressed, but in those of the popular form, it is seen in its greatest rankness and is truly their worst enemy. What is the worst enemy? Having different political parties, having different groups instead of unity. The alternate domination of one faction over another. The alternate means switching. Yeah? If we go boy, girl, this is alternate. If we go Democrat, Republican, this is alternate. And that's what he's meaning here. If you have different political parties, they will alternate. Sometimes one party will win, later another party will win, and then later again, the other party will win again. So if there is alternate domination, control of one political party over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, natural to party dissension, which in different ages and countries has perpetuated the most horrid enormities, is itself a frightful despotism. So when one party comes in, they want to get revenge. Maybe the other party did something to cancel what they did before. So now the new party comes in and they want to cancel what the old party did. For example, in America, Obama tried to give free medical care for everybody. Some people called it Obamacare. Obamacare. When the Republican Donald Trump won, one of the first things that he did was try to cancel the Obamacare law, try to repeal the law, take away the free health care. Now, Joe Biden, a Democrat, he wants to extend Obamacare again. So Obama, Democrat, he tried to make free medical care for everybody. Trump came in, cancelled it, and now Joe Biden wants to win, and he wants to give that free health care again. So different political parties will try to take revenge on each other, will try to undo what each other did. Are they working for the benefit of the country, or are they working for the benefit of themselves? It's a question, yeah? And he says this is despotism. This is like dictatorship, caring about themselves. The disorders and miseries which result gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose in the absolute power of an individual. So this will create misery, this will create problems for people, and it might tempt them to take a dictator or a king. Instead of constantly changing between different political parties, people might be tempted to choose one strong leader to control the country. In Myanmar, you had Than Shwe. In other countries, you had different leaders, like Hitler for Germany, Mussolini for Italy. Sooner or later, the chief of some prevailing faction, more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns this disposition to the purpose of his own elevation on the ruins of public liberty. If you do like this, one person will take total power, and then they will care about themselves, not the freedom of the people. Without looking forward to an extremity of this kind, which nevertheless ought not to be entirely out of sight. So this might be extreme. Yeah, extremity means absolutely extreme, but we know that it is possible. It is not out of sight, means we can see that this is a possibility. It's an extreme possibility, but it isn't a possibility. The common and continual mischief of the spirit of party are sufficient to make it the interest and duty of a wise people to discourage and restrain it. So it talks about continual mischief. Mischief means doing little wrong thing, little bad thing. So he says political parties will continually do bad things. If you hear Donald Trump talk about the Democrat Party, he can't say anything nice about them. If you hear the Democrat talk about Donald Trump, again, you cannot hear anything nice. It turns people to mischief. Rather than trying to compromise and find the best way for the country, they start to look for the best way for their political party. So, people who are wise should discourage political parties and restrain, limit political parties. It serves always to distract public councils and enfeeble the public administration. Political parties weaken local government. It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies. So jealousy means they will be arguing with each other. Who has the more control? Who is better? And false alarms. They will say false accusations against each other. If you vote for that party, he will destroy your medical care. If you vote for that party, he will destroy your bank balance. You will have no money left. He will tax you. So, political parties lead to false alarms. They lead to poor government because they are fighting each other, not working together for the best interest of the country. And kindles, ignites, or set on fire the animosity, the distrust of one part against another. So you set one part of the country against the other part of the country. And it might lead to riot or insurrection. Insurrection is where somebody tries to take over the government. It opens the door to foreign influence and corruption, which find a facilitated access to the government itself through the channels of party passions. So, other countries might have the ability to make the government corrupt because they can give money to the political party. If they give money to the party, the Democrat Party or the Republican Party, the president might listen to what they say. So it opens up the possibility for corruption. Thus, the policy and the will of one country are subjected to the policy and the will of another. There's the opinion that parties in free countries are useful checks because they have to argue and try to find the best way. And Washington says, with certain limits, it is probably true, but in most countries, it is led to excess. It leads to a negative behavior. So, just looking mostly at page 101, this is where George Washington really starts to criticize the idea of political parties. He says, political parties take care of themselves. They lead to arguing. They lead to separation in the country. And any wise people should fight against the political party. They should work for unity. Okay, so page 102. It is important, this paragraph is talking about separation of power. Okay? It is important that the habits of thinking in a free country should inspire caution in those entrusted with its administration to confine themselves within their respective constitutional spheres. Those who are in government need to limit themselves to their constitutional sphere, to their responsibility given by the Constitution. So if you are the president, you do what the Constitution tells the president to do. If you are a senator, you do what the Constitution tells the senators to do. If you are a judge, then you take responsibility for what the Constitution tells the judges to do. But you don't try to expand. You don't try and add responsibility from somebody else. So, that's the key, okay? The key is those first few lines where it says, you confine yourselves to the respective constitutional sphere and avoid exercise of the power, using power of one department to encroach upon another. Encroach means to take away power from another. You don't use your position to take away the power that somebody else has. You follow what the Constitution says. Let's skip down to the last paragraph on page 102. Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable support. So Washington says religion is very useful for politics, and morals, knowing right and wrong, is very useful for politics. I've seen questions like that come up before, and it asks you basically, does Washington think religion should be in or out of politics? Well, it says here, religion is an indispensable support. Indispensable means you cannot do without. You cannot survive without. So he's saying politics needs religion and morality. In vain, useless, would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness. So he says it is bad, it is wrong. If somebody says they love their country, they should try to weaken morality or religion. Because he says morality and religion are pillars of human happiness. They help people to be happy. Now, the mere politician, equally with the pious man, ought to respect and to cherish them. A politician is not so important. A good man, a holy man, a wise man, a pious man should support religion and morality. A volume could not trace all their connections with private and public felicity. So it says there is no limit to how useful they are. Somebody who has religion and morality will be a good leader. Yeah? They will make wise decisions, careful decisions, the best decisions. Let it simply be asked, where is the security for property, for reputation, for life, in the sense of religious obligation? Desert the oaths, which are instruments of investigation in courts of justice. So even in a court, you will make an oath. You put your hand on the Bible in an American court and you say something like, I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So you make a promise to God that you will tell the truth. So it says, how could a court operate without religion? God is very important in the court because you put your hand on the Bible and you promise to tell the truth because God is watching. And let us with caution indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. Let us imagine that there was morality, right and wrong, but no religion. Whatever may be conceded to the influence or refined education or mind's peculiar stature, reason and experience, both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious principle. It says it's impossible. It would be impossible to have good morality without religion. So where do the ideas of morality come from? Where does right and wrong come from if it's not from God? That's what he's saying. It is substantially true that virtue or morality is a necessary spring of popular government. The rule indeed extends with more or less force to every species of free government. Who that is a sincere friend to it can look with indifference upon attempts to shake the foundation of the fabric. Rightness, virtue, morality, these lead to a popular government. Because if the government is making the best decision for people, people will respect them. So we're going to look at one more section, and it's on page 105. As avenues to foreign influence in innumerable ways, innumerable means cannot count. Such attachments are particularly alarming to the truly enlightened and independent patriot. So there's lots of opportunities for foreign people, foreign company, foreign government to try to take influence, and that idea should worry people that are really patriotic. People that love their country should be worried about the effect of other countries. How many opportunities do they afford to tamper with domestic factions, to practice the art of seduction, to mislead public opinion, to influence or awe the public councils? So they might make an offer to one political party. They might get influence in government. They might seduce people. They might offer money or opportunity that make people trust them more than their own country. So it's a list of bad things that they can do. Such an attachment of small or weak towards a great powerful nation dooms the former to be a satellite of the latter. If a small nation accepts bribes or money or power or influence from another country, then that small country will be like a slave or a satellite of the big country. Okay? So you might talk about satellite countries in Cold War. He's talking about Eastern Europe, places like Hungary, Romania, Albania. These were satellites of Soviet Union, of the USSR. Okay? So these countries in Eastern Europe became satellites of Russia, where they had their own government, but they were under the control of Russia. And that's what that paragraph says right there. It says if countries accept influence, power, money, things from other countries, then their country will not be independent anymore. It will be under the control of another country. Against this insidious wiles of foreign influence, against this evil plan of foreign countries, and I conjure you to believe me, my fellow citizens, please believe me, the jealousy of a free people ought to be constantly awake. Free people should always be careful about this, always looking for this. Since history and experience prove that foreign influence is one of the most baneful foes of republican government. Foreign control is one of the biggest problems or biggest barriers to a republican government, to a democratic government. What is he thinking about? He's thinking about England. When England controlled America, there was no republican government. Remember, England closed down the Massachusetts legislature. So the republican idea of government was under the control of the British. But that jealousy, to be useful, must be impartial, must be in the middle, not taking sides. Else it becomes the instrument of the very influence to be avoided instead of a defense against it. People must try to be impartial, neutral, not take sides. They need to listen to the evidence and then decide which way is best. Excessive partiality for one foreign nation and excessive dislike of another cause those whom they actuate to see danger only on one side and serve to veil and even second the arts of influence of the other. If you only see one country as evil and one country as good, you will not realize the danger from the country that you see as good. You will only see the danger from the country that you see as bad. No, you must look carefully, neutrally at what is happening and remember that danger can come from both sides. Real patriots, real people that love their country, will resist the intrigues of the favourite, are liable to become suspected and odious, while its tools, dupes, usurp the applause of confidence of the people to surrender their interests. So real patriots might not be liked because people might become fooled. So people need to be on their guard. They need to be watching for foreign influence.